Hey guys, in today's tutorial I will show you a few commands that are related to 1.21 and some of these are pretty cool. So first of all, we've got the throwable armadillos. So you see, as soon as an armadillo is close, I start to raise my arms kind of. And I can throw the armadillos and then they explode. Yeah, this is pretty much the whole deal. Next we've got something else about armadillos. So this time armadillos somehow turn aggressive. They're not the smartest and the AI that moves them isn't really great. Alright, I can stay in survival mode for this next showcase. This breeze here is a Pacifist Breeze and cannot throw any wind charge projectiles. So next we've got something completely different, because now these wind charges here will instantly hit the target. And by target I mean the closest entity that's not a wind charge, not player. Generally that just is a mob. And I think I excluded armor stance. So, and last but not least, we have something else about wind charges. You see, these wind charges here just kind of burn, and I like these particles and wanted to implement them in some way. That's why I did this mostly. And yeah, they also set the ground aflame. Well, they are the best friends of trees apparently. And yeah, let's just get into the commands real quick. You see, this really isn't much of a big deal. Most of these are pretty simple. Just the throwing thing, it's a bit more complex, but I think you-ish guys should be able to live with that. And if you don't want to type all of this on your own, you can check out my Patreon. The structure files will be there as always. Great, so I don't want to start with the most complex one. So let's just start with the fire wind charge and then move away up there. So yeah, this is the particle command. And it's actually a particle added in 1.21, and it's just executed at the wind charge's position. This shouldn't really be much of a big deal, and then this is required to set the ground flame. It also executes a command at the wind charges and then has them fill the air with fire, and really that's pretty much everything you need to know about this. So now the instant wind charge is also extremely simple. Actually, I don't need to flick the lever because I showed you already. It really simply takes the wind charges and then has them teleport toward the closest entity that's not a mob. That is a mob, but not an armor stand, because this might interfere with some other command creations of yours if you want to implement this in some way. And yeah, it doesn't target players. Well, yet again, I have something really simple. The Pacifist Breeze is even easier, I guess. It really just kills all of the breeze wind charge projectiles, so all of the wind charges that are shot by breezes. And that causes the particles to still appear, but it doesn't really have any other effect. If you don't want the particles even, you can change this to be a teleport command that teleports them, so the breeze wind charge projectiles, into the void, and then you're also rid of the particles. The aggressive armadillo requires also about 2 command blocks, and then we can get into the real stuff. So yeah, actually you're gonna have to add the tag aggressive to armadillos for this to work. And yep, this pretty much just makes armadillos with the tag aggressive run toward the closest player, and they can't fly because of this section here. This unless block tiller 0.75 and yeah, also can't get through walls, and at a certain distance the armadillos are just gonna stop teleporting further. Alright, and then this is used for damage. This is the amount of damage applied. Of course, the armadillo is the one doing the damage. This is why I also need the S, like the S execute syntax. And yeah, we can move on. Alright, so I want to explain some of this to you before we get into the commands. The reason why this is rather complex, at least compared to these few command blocks, is that I don't really just take the armadillos as entities that execute some stuff. But instead, I am using a boat to kind of simulate a projectile. Hence, some of these command blocks are really just copies of other command blocks. You can see within these chains here. simply to make them execute more often. And of course, I also need some command blocks for the Armadillo itself, and for the animations the player does and so on. But yeah, we can get into the commands, I guess. Just wanted to get this out of the way before I talk about the commands. Good. Each player tests for an Armadillo within a range of 5 blocks, and if this Armadillo is actually there, then the player runs an animation command on themselves. And you can change this animation to whatever you want, but I didn't find any one that was more fitting than the short time I spent researching on this. And then the closest Armadillo, well, not the closest, actually an Armadillo within a range of 1 blocks, gets the tag throw added. So let's move on to the picking up part. Yeah, this was the right command block, good. And oh, just before I forget it, this one has a delay ticks of 2. That should be implemented. Yeah, okay. So yeah, this tests if the player isn't sneaking, because if the player is sneaking, you obviously want the Armadillo to be thrown. And if that is the case, then the Armadillo is just really teleported above the player's head. And again, this only is the case if the target doesn't have the tag thrown. By target I mean the Armadillo. And the tag thrown isn't the tag throw, as you can see here. But we're gonna talk about this in a second. Every Armadillo with the tag throw also is always rolled up, because otherwise it wouldn't look as nice. And now we can actually move on to adding the tag thrown. Okay, so now if the player is sneaking, the player gets the tag throwing, and we can move on. Then the player with the tag throwing, which indicates that the player is currently throwing the Armadillo, adds the tag thrown to the Armadillo they're holding. The player also plays a sound to all the nearby players, including themselves. And this is again a 1.21 sound, just in case you care, which I don't think is very likely. Okay, then this summons a boat that has the player's rotation in the sky, 100 blocks above the players, so no one sees it. And then the boat gets tagged Armadillo, and this just really implies that it is a boat that is meant to move the Armadillo and just act as a projectile, because boats can't have names, as far as I know at least. And then the player also, in the end, gets to remove the tag throwing, so it is indicated that they're not throwing the Armadillo any longer. Now I think this will be where we will get some more repetitive stuff. Yes, first this just moves the Armadillo itself below the boat, and then the boat always teleports, taking the Armadillo with itself. Yeah, this really is just where the replication starts. You need this command a total of 3 times. This really just tests if the Armadillo is colliding with any block, and then explodes the Armadillo. In case the block is something like water, where the Armadillo would get decreased damage from the explosion, then this command comes into play and just kills the Armadillo itself. And in the end, the boat is also killed, because obviously the boat shouldn't be floating further. At some point, it probably would get on anyone's nerves. If you liked this tutorial, then you'll also like my first and second part of this series, linked on the screen right now. There I show you how to make even more cool 1.21 command block creations, and they're also quite simple as these ones were.